Alright, so in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to take a look at an acoustic rhythm that has a lot of fill licks and it's very slow, so there's a lot of space in between the notes. And what I like about this is that pretty much anyone can follow along with this. There's nothing really technical that can hold you back or might hold you back. There's not a lot of fast picking or any of that. And the whole point of this lesson, for me anyway, was I wanted to write something that has just some real simple chords. So it's got a G, an F, and then a C. And then it goes back to the G chord. So G, F, and C for the first part anyway. There's just a couple other chords in the second part. But what can you do with basic chords like that to make a song sound interesting if you have an acoustic guitar part? With acoustic guitar, you don't have the effects to fall back on or any of that. So it's sort of like you're left to just come up with some notes that fill the space in a creative way. And that's what we're going to talk about as we break down this lesson, just give you some ideas for how to do that. So in this video, we're going to break down all of the lesson material. If you'd like to get the extras that come with the lesson, so the MP3 jam track, the tablature, the on-screen tab viewer, all those extra things that will allow you to practice everything we're going to talk about, you can get those things by going to activemelody.com. Go to the weekly lessons page and do a search for EP509. Now I mentioned that there was no effects used. I should take that back because I did add a little bit of reverb to the acoustic track sort of after the fact. Obviously not when I'm playing it, but when I listened to it I thought it just needed to fatten up the sound a little bit. But it's not necessary, so you don't have to be thinking about effects or anything. Just grab whatever guitar you've got, even if it's an electric guitar, you can make it work with this. This guitar, by the way, is a 1948 Martin 00021. People always ask about that. I love this guitar. It's set up perfectly. The intonation on it is fantastic. The action is great. It rings forever. And that was probably the reason I chose this guitar for this song, is I wanted something that just has a lot of sustain and will ring out. And so this is my go-to guitar for that kind of thing. All right, let's listen to the first part of this and then we'll talk about it. All right, so as I mentioned, the chords that we're going to be playing over are a G, an F, a C, and then we go back to the G. So what I did for the first two chords anyway was I just played the chord. I just went like this. For the G chord, I just strummed the chord. Now I'm playing the G chord using the E shape here out of the cage system. We're going to be repurposing a lot of the cage system as we talk about these chord voicings, and I'll be kind of calling those out as we get into them. But anyway, this first one's the E shape. Then we go down to play the F chord. Just slide that down 2 frets. And then I went like this. All right, and so what's going on there? Now remember that third chord was a C. So we played the G, we played the F, and then that next chord is a C. But instead of playing the C, I went like this. So what is that? That is a C sus4. Now I talked about sus chords in a recent lesson. I'll put that up on the screen if you're interested in that. But basically, that's what I'm doing, is I'm playing a C sus4. It has that sort of unresolved sound, and it's perfect. These sus chords are great for this kind of slow, spacey sound. It's kind of what I like to fall back on. Now I don't use a lot of other sus chords in this. I think that's the only suspended chord I'm using. But anyway, I did the C sus4, and then I walked down from that 3rd fret 4th string down to here, down to the 2nd fret 4th string. And played 4 and 3, just 2 notes out of the C chord. So that's like your C. So it's like a C sus4 and then your C. But we're only playing strings 4, 3, and 2, right? And then I landed on that note, which is my open D string, or my D note. And that's where the song goes back to the G chord. Why did that note work? Well, it's one of the notes in the G chord. Your notes in your G chord are G, B, and D. So I just hit the D note. So we have 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the timing of that, I should mention that, this little C sus4, it comes in on the and of 4. So it's like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's where it comes in. A little ahead of the beat. All right, so this next lick kind of cracks me up a little bit because it's total bluegrass lick. It's the G run. So I just worked it in. It's sort of like my fingers naturally go there a lot of times just because, I don't know, if I hear a G chord, I can't help myself. I love it so much. So I played this. And then slid up to that G note up here. Now the way I'm playing that is ring finger on the 3rd fret 6th string to hit that G note. And then your index comes to the 1st fret 5th string, and you do a quick slide up to the 2nd fret. So you go like this. And then you hit your open 4th string, that D note. And then 2nd fret 4th string up to your open G note on the 3rd string. So, and then you match that note on the 4th string by sliding up to the 5th fret. So you've got that open G ringing out, and then you go. Seems kind of weird when you're just talking it out like that. It doesn't seem like it would work. But when you hear it with the jam track, it does kind of fit. It might be a little too bluegrassy for your taste. If that's the case, then just take some of it out. I don't know, change it. That's what's great about this is you have the ability to do that. But what I'm thinking about as I kind of talk this through is I think about each of these pieces kind of like Legos, and so each chord has its own little piece, and so this represents the G chord. That's my little piece that I'm plugging in for the G chord. That means going forward, if you like that sound, even on something slow and pretty like this or something driving and fast, if there's a G chord that shows up in something you're playing, you've got some notes that you can work with, and you can plug in that piece and use that for yourself. So after I slide up to that G note, I just let it hang out there for a little bit. Then I played. Now I played that as the song goes to the F chord. So I'm on the 4th fret 3rd string. I do a hammer onto the 5th fret 3rd string, back to the 4th fret, and then the 5th fret 4th string. Very simple to play, and it works perfectly over that F chord as the song goes to the F chord. Now, why do those notes work? Well, I was thinking about G Mixolydian scale, because when you've got this chord progression, a 1 chord going down 2 frets this way, you've got Mixolydian. That's, I don't know a better way to say it, but you'll kind of learn this stuff as the more of it you do. But Mixolydian scale is just the major scale, but you flat the 7. That's the easiest way to say it. So it's, hear that flatted 7? It gives you a little bit more of a blues sound. But when your chords are going from a G to an F, and then even the C that's in there, that G Mixolydian scale is kind of the perfect scale for that. That's like a Mixolydian sound. And all of this comes from just hearing intervals. The more of this you do, even if you totally don't get it yet, you just have to keep doing it, because those intervals start to stick in your head, and you'll hear those little flat 7s, when to do a flat 7 versus when not to do a flat 7. And your fingers will actually know kind of before your head does. That's where it gets kind of weird. It's just sort of like they'll just sort of feel their way through it. But anyway, this little, that doesn't seem like a scale, but it's coming from that G Mixolydian scale. That's where my brain was. Then the song goes from the F to the C, and then back to the G. So when it goes to the C, I played, and then it goes down to the G, and I went. So where do those notes come from? They come from G Mixolydian. Look at this. Right, so I wasn't like putting my head totally into it, but my fingers kind of knew what to do. They knew, you know, kind of where to go and even what to land on. So I landed on this B note. That's not a note you might think about landing on when you're playing over a G chord, but it works because remember the 3 notes in your G chord are a G, a B, and a D. So you can land on any of those notes and it's going to sound good. And if you feel frustrated as I explain some of this stuff, like how am I ever going to learn all this stuff, the notes to land on and all of that, just take it sort of piecemeal as it's fed to you. So like as you learn that you can land on a B note for a G chord, file that away somewhere and it'll come back at some point. You may not know all the notes you can land on for all the chords, but don't try and do that. Just try and get the little piece that you've learned. So for a G chord, you've learned a couple of things. You've learned the little G run, the little bluegrass thing. You've also learned a little piece of Mixolydian scale landing on the B note. These are little things that sort of add up over time. And to me, that's where improvising comes from. It's all these little nuggets that you sort of, you learn from somebody or somewhere and you just kind of file them away. You'll forget half of them, probably forget more than half of them, but some of them will stick. Okay, so this next run goes. Now it seems like a lot, but you're going to realize that it's just a few things at play here. So when I started, look at what's going on there. Remember, this is where the song goes back to the G chord. So this is just another little G idea, another one that you can file away. All I'm doing is I'm playing the arpeggio. I'm walking up the notes of the G chord. So, but I'm sliding into that third interval. It's just to give it a little bit of extra character, I guess. You could slide into any of those notes, by the way, but I chose the third one. So I walked up the notes of the G chord. That's the G chord out of the E shape here. So it's 2, 1, 2, barred on the 3rd fret. And then, let's look at that. That's a slide from the 5th fret 2nd string up to the 6th fret. And then we played the 5th fret 1st string. Now, where is that coming from? Well, that's coming, I'll give you 2 ways to look at this. One is it's still Mixolydian scale. There's that flat 7, so you have, hear it? So, but the other way you can think about it is, remember we're playing over the F chord at this point? Look at these notes. Oh, there's your little F triad, it's using that D shape. Maybe a light bulb went off for somebody. But these 2 notes are just 2 notes out of that F chord. So are they out of G Mixolydian? Yes. Are they also 2 notes that just happen to be in the F chord? Yes. So either way, they're going to fit perfectly over that F chord. So we have this then for the G chord. There's our F chord. Then the song goes to the C chord, and I went, now what's that? So that's sliding up to the 5th fret 2nd string from a half step down, so from 4th fret. And then playing the 5th fret 3rd string. Now what are these 2 notes? Well, let's think about our chord shapes. We're playing the C chord here. So I was just thinking about my C chord using the A shape from the cage system, which is right here. And if I look at strings 2 and 3 out of that little triad there, that's all I'm doing. So I was just thinking about my chord. I wasn't even thinking about a scale. I did the same thing for the next note that I play after that, which is, so then the song goes back to the G chord. I'm thinking about my G chord again, right here, using the E shape. Only strings 2 and 3 though. I just slid into that. Why did I choose strings 2 and 3? Probably because I just played strings 2 and 3 for the C chord. I'm lazy like that. Okay, so those same chords are going to repeat again. We have our G, F, C, and then back to the G. So for the G, this time I came up here and played a G chord using that D shape. So that looks like that, where your G note is on that 8th fret 2nd string. So I played this, and then I added this little embellishment to it that goes, right? And what I'm playing there is, it's really just notes from the scale again, but I didn't think about scale. I was just kind of feeling my way around with my pinky there. as a embellishment, I guess, off of that chord shape. So the pinky goes to the 8th fret 1st string, slide up to the 10th fret 1st string, and then back to the 8th fret. So it goes like this. That's a little tricky to do to make it sound clean. In fact, when I did that the first time, I think I screwed it up, so I had to do that a couple of times to get that right. And then I came down 2 frets because the next chord is an F chord. So remember, if we look at what's going on here, for example, G chord, F chord. It's the same shape, we just go down 2 frets. So there's your cue. So in other words, if this is a G chord, we just go down 2 frets. So if I'm playing a G chord up here, I just go down 2 frets. So you can, follow the same logic all the way through. So just pick the notes out of it. 1, 2, 3. And then it goes to the C chord, and I just played it like this. So that's out of your A shape, or your G shape, however you're thinking about it. But it's the triad there. Strings 2, 3, and 4 on the 5th fret. A little embellishment off of that. And then back to my G chord using the E shape. Only strings 2, 3, and 4 though. See, I'm matching what I did here. Strings 2, 3, and 4, 2, 3, and 4. So when I came down to this G chord here, I played the G sus4. So to add another little embellishment. Basically, I was copying what I did for the C chord. There's your C with your little C sus4, and then I did the same thing for the G. And my pinky goes down on the 5th fret 3rd string to create that. Now this is where the song changes gears, and we add some different chords. So the next chord set, these are basic chords. We have a D chord, then it goes to an E minor, then it goes to a C, then back to our G. And then we repeat that, back to the E minor. But then it goes to an A minor, and then to a D, which is the 5 chord of G, and brings us back to our G, and we can start the cycle over again. Now let's look at that. So we're going to be playing over a D now, and then an E minor. Those are our next 2 chords. So remember, we were on our G here. We did our little sus4 thing. And then, so the next chord is a D. In keeping with this theme of playing strings 2, 3, and 4, like we did here and here, I did the same thing here. Look at this. For the D chord. So that's my D chord. I'm using the C shape from the cage system, right? But I'm only playing strings 2, 3, and 4, so that's all I need. I don't even need to use my pinky. But hopefully you can see where that's coming from. Here's your D chord the way you know it, right? But we're playing this little piece of it. So I played that D chord, just strummed it once, 2, 3, 4. Then my E minor, just strum that and let it ring out. And then the next little phrase or fill lick that I played as the song goes from a C to a G, I played this. Let's look at the notes there. We're going to do a hammer on between the 2nd fret and the 4th fret on the 4th string. And then while that note rings out, actually that 4th fret, 4th string, go ahead and hit the 3rd string, which is your open G note. And it kind of creates a little dissonance between those 2 notes. And then you walk it back down, 4, 2. Open 4th string, open 5th string, and then the 2nd fret 5th string. So now what is going on there? Now remember in the first part, which was G, F, C, G, the only scale I mentioned was G Mixolydian. Now for this, since the chords have changed, we've kind of switched gears here a little bit. We have a D and an E minor, C and G. So the scale I'm going to use for this would be G major. So because those chords are all in the G family. The E minor would be your relative minor, would be your 6th chord. Your D chord would be like your 5 chord. Your C chord would be your 4 chord, and so forth. So the G major scale is going to work perfectly in this situation. That's why when you hit this note, that's your 7th interval, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But it's the correct 7th interval from your major scale versus the flat 7 like from Mixolydian. See, that wouldn't have worked. That wouldn't have sounded right if I played the flatted 7 versus. So anyway, that's what's going on there with those notes. So then it goes back to the D chord. And what I played to get back to the D chord note-wise was just walked it up 2, 3, 4 on the 5th string, and then up to my open D string on the 4th string there. And that's really just a chromatic move. So I'm just walking it up. Now once I hit that open 4th string, let it ring out, and then I go ahead and put my fingers in position to play the D chord, but I left my middle finger out of it, so I let that open E string ring out. So you have that sound. That's a D sus 2. And again, these sus chords sound pretty in something slow like this, and it just sort of has a real pretty chimey sound. I actually used more of them than I thought. I said at the beginning I only used one, but actually I'm seeing that I've used quite a few of these suspended chords. So I played that. Now the next chord is the E minor. I could have went back to the E minor down here, but to give you another option, I came up here and hit my E minor here. I was thinking about my E minor using that A minor shape. It's a little stair step. 7th fret, 8th fret, 2nd string, 9th fret, 3rd string. 7th fret's on the 1st string. Okay, now the next chord after that is an A minor. And I played it here. Thinking about my E minor shape, right? So, little embellishment with my pinky. 7th fret, 1st string, take that off, and then 8th fret, 2nd string. And then watch this. I played my D chord there. And that's using the same thing we did for the C chord. Remember that little triad? Doing it here. Now, so I'm thinking about my D chord using the A shape or the G shape, but it's just the triad. So I hit that there, and then I can repeat. That's where the song would repeat. You go back to your G chord, F, so forth. There's a lot of information. Even though this was just a few chords, I wanted to give you lots of different options. And that's what this is all about. It's just, I mean, some of these you're going to already know how to do. Some of these maybe you're looking at it from a different angle. Some of this stuff maybe you've never even thought about before. But the whole idea is just to get you thinking about, oh yeah, okay, so instead of playing a G chord, I've got that option, or I've got, right? Or I've got that option. You've got options to substitute for chords. I think that's what this is all about, just finding substitutes so that you're not just going like this. Right? That's the whole idea behind improvising. All right, well, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, if you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, click that alert bell, then you can be notified when I put out new lessons, which I do every week. All right, make sure you check out Active Melody as well if you haven't done that. All right, we'll see you next week for something new.